Ever cracked open a history book and thought, what if? What if things had gone differently? Well, today we're doing just that. We're diving headfirst into the world of what ifs with the BAC TSR-2.
Ah, the TSR-2.
A British Cold War jet so advanced for its time it was almost tragic when it got shelved.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, what might have been? It's become a legendary what-if story for aviation enthusiasts, a real symbol of unrealized potential.
And the source material for today's deep dive takes that what if and blasts it right into the modern world. We're looking at an excerpt from Operation Phoenix, the return of XR220.
Oh, I like this already.
This excerpt imagines that grounded supersonic bomber reborn in 2025 with a new call sign, XR220.
Okay.
And it's taking on a mission that today's tech just can't handle.
Interesting. You see, this is what I love. The story really digs into this whole idea of legacy systems, that sometimes older technology can actually be a strategic advantage in modern warfare.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Think about it. The XR220, it predates a lot of the modern defense systems out there. So it operates on principles that they weren't designed to detect.
It's like they don't even see it coming.
Exactly. Like having a key to a door that everyone else has forgotten even exists.
I love that analogy. Okay, before we get to XR220 soaring back into action, let's rewind for a bit. What exactly was the TSR-2 and what made it so special?
Picture this. Late 1950s, Cold War's in full swing. Britain, they want a super fast bomber, something that can fly low under the enemy radar and, deliver. Enter the TSR-2.
Making an entrance.
Oh, this thing was designed with advanced radar, terrain following capabilities. It was basically trying to be a stealth bomber before stealth was even really a thing.
Wow, they were really pushing the envelope with this aircraft. So, with all that tech, why was the TSR-2 ultimately grounded?
Well, like a lot of ambitious projects, especially back in the Cold War, it often comes down to two things: politics and budgets. By the mid-1960s, priorities shifted.
Yeah.
And the TSR-2, unfortunately, became another victim of those changing political winds and budget cuts.
It happens. It's really a shame that this innovative aircraft never got its moment in the sun. So how does this Cold War relic go from museum piece to Operation Phoenix? What kind of threat could make someone dust off a plane designed before the internet even existed?
Well, that's where the fictional world of our source material comes in. The year is 2025, and a new player has entered the arena of global threats. Crescent Dawn, a terrorist organization so technologically advanced, it's almost like something out of a futuristic thriller. We're talking about bases, fortresses, virtually impenetrable to any conventional military force. Drones, undetectable by even the most advanced radar systems. This isn't just about brute force anymore. This is about information dominance.
So Crescent Dawn has basically neutralized all the tools in the modern military playbook. But in this high-stakes game of chess, somebody decides to pull out a piece nobody was expecting.
Exactly. And it's a brilliant tactical maneuver when you really think about it. Crescent Dawn has designed its defenses to anticipate the latest technology, the most cutting-edge weapons. But they've completely overlooked the vulnerabilities of older systems, those that predate their own, the systems they never thought they'd have to face, like the XR220.
I can see how the element of surprise would be a huge advantage for the XR220. But let's not forget, this old bird was designed for a different era of warfare. Flying under the radar and dropping bombs is one thing, but going up against modern defense systems, that's a whole different ballgame.
You're absolutely right. The TSR-2, at its core, was designed for low-level penetration, bombing missions, not dogfights with enemy fighters. Yeah. But that's what makes this whole story so intriguing. The excerpt describes how they basically took this 1960s aircraft and gave it a 21st century makeover. We're talking advanced avionics, electronic countermeasures, even a touch of AI to help manage all those new systems. It's like taking a vintage car, restoring it beautifully, but then swapping out the engine for something with a supercharger and a state-of-the-art navigation system, of course.
So they essentially turned this Cold War relic into a Frankensteinian fusion of old and new. I have to know, how does this all play out in the excerpt? Does the XR220 actually manage to get past Crescent Dawn's defenses?
Well, the excerpt throws us right into the action. We meet Squadron Leader James Spitfire Morgan, our protagonist, this incredibly skilled pilot.
I like him already.
He's about to embark on this incredibly risky mission. And their target, it's buried deep within the Zagros Mountains.
Oh, wow.
Treacherous terrain, even without the threat of, surface-to-air missiles and radar installations.
Talk about pressure. This is like flying a resurrected Cold War jet into a 21st century firestorm. I can feel the tension just thinking about it. What's it like for Spitfire up there facing those defenses head on? So we've got Spitfire flying into this modern day fortress in an aircraft that, let's face it, most would consider a museum piece. What happens next? Does this XR220, does it actually hold up against 21st century tech?
Oh, the excerpt does not disappoint. It paints this really vivid picture of the XR220. Picture this. Dodging surface-to-air missiles, using those valleys as cover, playing this high-stakes game of hide-and-seek with Crescent Dawn's radar systems. And that's where those electronic countermeasures we talked about, that's where they really come into play. It's not just about being hard to see, it's about messing with the enemy's ability to even know you're there.
So like those classic scenes you see in movies with flares and chaff and all that, to throw off heat-seeking missiles, does that stuff actually work against modern tech?
Well, it's a bit more complicated than the movies make it seem.
Right.
Chaff and flares. They're still used today, but modern missiles are often multispectral, meaning they use multiple ways to track a target. It's not just heat or radar.
Ah, so they've got backup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. The XR220, it's got this combination of speed, agility, and those old-school electronics. It creates this really unique challenge. Remember, Crescent Dawn. Their systems weren't designed with this kind of threat in mind.
Yeah.
It's like trying to stop a rogue wave with a net designed for catching fish.
Completely different ballgame.
Exactly. The rules are different.
So the XR220 is kind of like exploiting a blind spot in their defenses.
Right.
Which is a pretty brilliant reminder that sometimes going back to basics, even if those basics were, incredibly advanced for their time, it can give you this unexpected edge.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head there. The excerpt really highlights how effective that combination of old and new technology can be. You've got the raw power and ingenuity of that original TSR-2 design, but then you add in these modern avionics, these electronic warfare capabilities. It proves that innovation isn't always about creating something entirely new, Sometimes it's about finding new ways to use what we already have.
It's like that saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a reason those old designs worked. Sometimes bringing them back with a few modern tweaks, that's all it takes. So does Spitfire pull it off? Is the mission a success?
Well, I don't want to spoil the ending completely for our listeners, but let's just say this. The XR220, it's battered, yeah, but it's not broken.
Yeah.
It makes it back from the mission.
I love a happy ending.
The excerpt ends with this real sense of triumph. You get this feeling that sometimes the underdog, armed with a bit of ingenuity and a whole lot of courage, can overcome some pretty incredible odds.
Love it. A classic tale of human ingenuity and resilience. But, beyond all the action and adventure, this excerpt really does make you think. In a world that is obsessed with the next big thing, the latest gadget, the newest upgrade, do we sometimes forget about what we've left behind? Do we overlook the potential of the past?
That's the question this deep dive leaves us with, isn't it? The XR220, it becomes more than just an aircraft. It becomes a symbol of this forgotten potential. A reminder that innovation, it doesn't always move in a straight line. And sometimes the key to solving tomorrow's problems, it might just lie in re-examining the solutions of yesterday.
It's a powerful thought. And on that note, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What piece of so-called outdated tech do you think deserves a second look? Head over to our social media and let us know. Until next time, this has been The Deep Dive, reminding you to always keep exploring, keep questioning, and never, ever underestimate the power of a good what if.